Hello, everyone. This is Hannah Mail again. And we are looking at more of the objects. So, just to remind everyone of where we left off in the PowerPoint, we were we were at the site of Bidos. And as I said, it first saw use as a royal burial ground during the early dynastic period. And then in the Middle Kingdom, it experienced a resurgence because it was thought that the tomb of Osiris, who was one of the Egyptians' main deities for the land of the dead, was located there. And so it became a place of pilgrimage for different socioeconomic classes of Egyptian society as well. And then various buildings and material culture remains stemmed from that. So we are looking at an object that probably came from Abydos and from possibly this building here. So the temple to Osiris that was put or built on the site during the Middle Kingdom. So this is the piece that towards the end of the last video, I had the brains scramble about, which is why I'm starting again with it now. So this is a limestone stele lay. So this was set up as most likely as a marker of this couple, and more particularly this woman or women that either did a pilgrimage to Abydos or wanted to be able to have or to do the pilgrimage in spirit even after she or they passed. So it is the limestone stela of Ku. So Ku is the name of the wife or wives. So part of the mystery of the stele is that we see this couple here and then this couple here. The female pair of the couple, these women or women are both named Ku. So the mystery is this the same woman twice, and this is her remarriages? So this is her first husband, and this is the same woman, and this is her second husband, because it's clear that the husbands' names are different names. So we're definitely dealing with two different husbands. Or is this two separate women, and they just happen to both have the same name of Ku? And another part of the mystery is that these seem to be Ku's relatives, or the relatives maybe of both these spouse couples, if they are in fact two different spouse couples. Because these hieroglyphs, which you can't really see all that well, but there's hieroglyphs above each of these figures that give us their names and their relative designations as well. And those relatives all have, or they're all referred to as his son. So is that his son referring to this gentleman? Are they his son? Or this gentleman, are they his son? It's just unclear. So that's part of the mystery of the stele lay. So the entry for the British Museum online collection search that I got this from, the entry there says that probably the best solution, or a possible solution at least, is that this stele lay was part of, or was originally in a chapel to Ku's family, so to the woman Ku, and that it is in fact the same woman, and she did marry twice. So this is the same woman, but these are her two husbands. And she's the one, so it's possible that she's the one that actually commissioned the stele lay. And so it's her relatives and it's her husbands that she's commemorating. Because part of the practice starting in the Middle Kingdom was that at the site of Abydos overall, so in this site and particularly around this building or sort of within its vicinity, families would set up chapels to different deities, and they would put these family stelae within these chapels. And it's not just at Abydos that they did this, but that I think is one of the major sites that they did this in. And so that's the possibility for this stele, is that there was basically a family chapel to this woman Ku's family, and so that's what the stele is commemorating, is both her and her husband's, and then her kin here as well. And so on that stele, and this is something else that you'll find in both these stele in these chapels, but then in overall tomb chapel stele as well, is you'll find the offering prayer or offering formula. So on the stele, it's sorry, I'm just trying to move. It's the close-up part here. So this is where the offering formula is. And so that's what this slide is I've zoomed in to that top part here. So this is basically these three hieroglyphs say a royal offering given to Osiris, Lord of Busaris, and then more of the offering formulae, so which deity this stele is being dedicated to. And then down here, you have some of the actual goods that you hope will be offered, or that the person or persons that commissioned these stele hope will be given to them in the afterlife as well. So this is Zathor and his wife Ku. So again, Ku is the wife, and that's the person that is either the same woman that we see twice on those two registers, or two separate women that just happen to have the name Ku. And so she is with her husband, Zathor. And so you can't fully see it, and I didn't realize I cropped it out fully, but this gives that she is his wife. And then this is a son, so I think this is saying his son somewhere here as well. And it gives one of his titles, which is a steward. And so he is giving his parents offerings as well. And then you have another couple. So again, that same name, that same female name, Ku. And this is the steward Zamon. So again, a different man. And they are being given offerings by a servant, and his name is given there. And then there's offerings that are already piled on the table as well that they are, about to consume. And then these in the last register, so this is the third register, so in the overall stele it's this chunk here. Is three couples. And the exact familial relationships of these couples to the first two is not clear. And so actually this one, so this register is just this register here. And then this fourth register is servants, or what appears to be servants, so not necessarily connected to the family, but people that are maybe servants or serve in some way the couples that you see on the registers above them here, because they're bringing various things to these family members. And it gives, in the hieroglyphs here, it gives some of their titles as well. So this is also, or this is not from Abydos, but this is another one of these stele lays that you can get glimpses of some of the lives of women in ancient Egypt. And in this case, it is a mother and her son. So this is the mother, and then this is the son here. So they're both, by putting their names on the stele, they're both hoping to receive offerings in the next life. And so if you look here, you'll see that offering formula again. So a royal offering given to Osiris, and then some of the things that this mother and son hopes to receive in the next life, as well as what this is. So this is a close-up of this first chunk here. So another example, or a close-up more of the offering formula. So a royal offering given to, or of Osiris, Lord of life, of the two lands. So that's actually a quarter in Memphis. So these people lived somewhere in Memphis, probably. May he give a mortuary offering of bread and beer, oxen and geese, linen, clothing, every good and pure thing whereon the god lives. So here you see again the kinds of things that the Egyptians wanted in the afterlife. So they tended to ask for bread and beer, different kinds of fowl, and then different kinds of clothing as well. And then this stele also gives the names of the people that are on it. So it gives the mother's name, so born of Yatu, who is deceased. And so actually this, I think, is the grandmother's name. And so that's a common thing that you'll find on a lot of these steles, that if it's, because it tends to be men who commission these pieces, and they will give their mother's name on the stele. But in this case, I think it's the grandmother that the son actually references first, because then it goes, and for the ka of his mother, his beloved Yatu, deceased. So she's also apparently dead, born of Tita, deceased. So you get a little bit of the maternal lineage here as well. And then as I talked about in the last video, one of the things that you see in the Middle Kingdom is not just reuse of old sites, but development of new sites. One of these sites that really gets developed both for agriculture and increased food production, and then there's funerary culture that you see spring up there as well is the Fayum, which is in Middle Egypt. So we have some maps here. So this is the Fayum, and then this is where the Fayum is in the sort of larger Nile Valley. So it's sort of here, and Cairo, and Memphis, and again Lower Egypt, which is that Delta region, is here. And so a lot of the Fayum in the Old Kingdom was still covered by water, and so in the Middle Kingdom you see pharaohs that actually drain large areas of the Fayum to increase food production, but that also leads to greater urban settlements and habitation in different parts of the Fayum as well. So greater habitation means you get more cemetery sites starting in the Middle Kingdom. So this is again from the digital Egypt, and this is one of the Fayum cemeteries that's near Kasr Asaka from the Middle Kingdom. So all these purple, not dots, but shapes are graves. So this is a statuette of a woman that was found in one of these Fayum tombs. So you see her here, and then the statue's base has, I think, her name and a brief inscription as well. So you get that offering inscription. Again, here it's sort of faded, so it's not the clearest. And it's to Osiris, and you see that association of him with Abydos as well. And then the types of things that this woman hopes to receive in the afterlife as well. So again, bread and beer, cattle, and different kinds of fowl. So this is that same inscription, but it's just, spaced up. So for the object overall, I zoomed in on this part here. So there. So you have that royal offering part here. And then this is the to Osiris part, Lord of Osiris, the great God, Lord of Abydos, giving an invocation offering of bread, beer, cattle, and fowl to the Ka, or basically this woman's spirit or life force, and then you have her name here of Ka-Met. And then justified is that last part there. So this is how the Fayum looked when it was drained by the different pharaohs in the pharaonic period. Also, as part of the democratization of the afterlife that we talked about, or that I talked about a little bit in the last video, you have again more funerary artifacts and items for women that are not royal women. And one of these classes of objects are canopic jars. So the Egyptians were practical in a lot of ways. So one of their spiritual beliefs was that you needed your body whole to be able to have your spirit recognize it in the afterlife and be able to go back and forth. But they were practical enough to realize that if you left the wet organs in the body, your body would decay, but you still needed your wet organs with you in the tomb somehow. So their solution was to take the organs out of the body and put them in these jars that Egyptologists have called canopic jars. And so from the Old Kingdom on, in the Old Kingdom, most of the canopic jars that we have for women as examples come from royal burials. When you get to the Middle Kingdom, that's where you start to get non-royal female canopic jars. So that's what this is an example of. So this is from a woman's tomb, in this case, Nephthys, and these are her wet organs that were taken out of her body and put in these jars. And then the jars were put in her tomb so that she still had those parts of her body to hand, but her body would, not decompose. So this is the same woman. So from that same grave, from the grave of burial of Lady Nephthys. And here you see her actual, her coffin. So this is where her actual body is. It's inside this. And then this is her sarcophagus. So this was then placed inside this overall box. And what you see here on the outside are the coffin texts. So the coffin texts were a series of spells that were designed to basically help the deceased pass the perils and trials of the underworld so that he or she could reach the land of Osiris. And they're called coffin texts because we see a lot of these first on coffins, and then later they're on sort of later versions of them, and some other added spells are on papyrus. And so that's where we get in the New Kingdom the Book of the Dead, or Books of the Dead as well. So this is from the burial of Princess Mayit. So this is her coffin with some of these coffin texts here as well. So she was actually, buried in this sarcophagus, and you see the eyes here that allow her to actually look out of this box and to sort of be aware of what's going on as well. And then this is another coffin of a female child from the second intermediate period to early New Kingdom. So again, you see the offering formula here, and then that, the invocation offering there as well. Also, one of the ways that you can get some idea of women that may not be elite, or very high class women, is these tomb reliefs and kind of these daily life scenes. So these come from the tombs of important officials that tend to be male, but on their tomb walls, they put scenes of their estate and kind of what goes on. And so as part of that, you see women that they've employed that are doing various tasks. So this is from the tomb of Khanum-Hotep, who was one of these male officials during the Middle Kingdom. And this is actually a facsimile of one of these scenes in his tomb that was done by Norman D. Garris Davis. So this is not the original relief scene, but it's a painting of it. So you see a group of women that appear to at least have, or at least some of them appear to have names here. And they are doing various household tasks. So you see what appears to be maybe a sort of female leader or someone that's in charge of this group of women here that are doing some weaving or some cloth production. And then you have this other woman that is doing this other household task as well. So this is an example where you kind of get a glimpse of women that are not, of very high social class. This is another example. So this is from the tomb of Dodge Airy. So it's that same thing where it's not the original relief, but it's one of these fasa meals. And in this case, it's a group of women that are within this official's household, and you see them here, and they're preparing food. The overall site of Deir al-Bahari is also one of the ways that we can get at women of different social classes. So this is the overall site of Deir al-Bahari from Google Earth. Deir al-Bahari has multiple archaeological remains on it. So it has 3 main mortuary temples. So mortuary temples were places where offerings were given to the spirit of deceased monarchs to sustain them in the next life. So it has the one of Mentuhotep II, then Hatshepsut, and then Tutmosis the third as well. And Hatshepsut is probably the most famous and what draws the most tourists to the site. So that's what you see here. Is you see all 3 of the mortuary temples and some of the other buildings that are on the site as well. So this is the mortuary temple of Mentuhotep II at Deir al-Bahari via Google Earth. This is another famous tomb within Deir al-Bahari, TT319, again via Google Earth. And one of the things that seems to have been at Deir al-Bahari is so within this region, and maybe here, is some sort of shrine or temple to the goddess Hathor. Because one of the things that archaeologists have found is they've found a lot of objects that appear to be votive objects. So objects that have been dedicated to the goddess Hathor, and these objects seem to have been dedicated by either one woman or sometimes a group of them as well. So this is an example of that. So it's a textile, and so this is the Hathor, so the goddess, and this woman is the person that dedicated this piece of textile to her. So you have her name, and so she is doing an offering to the goddess Hathor, and so she left this piece here. So this is another way that we can get at the sort of private religious practices of women, particularly during the New Kingdom. This is another votive object, another textile piece. So this is the goddess Hathor here. She's in her cow form. And in this case, it appears to be that these 6 women, and again, you see their names here, dedicated this textile piece to her at the shrine or temple to her at Deir al-Bahari. This is another example. So this is Hathor again, and she's in her human form. And this, based on the hieroglyphs, this is a mother and then her 2 daughters that dedicated this piece of textile to the goddess there. This is another object that appears to be another votive offering. So Hathor is in her cow form here. So this, again, the hieroglyphs are faded, so I don't know for sure, but this might be the name of the woman or person who dedicated this tunic or piece of clothing. And then we have the inscription here, but this also might be Hathor's name here as well. So this is from this is not from Dear Pari. This is one of these funerary stele lays. And in this case, you see the two registers. So the husband, who is the deceased, and he is being given offerings or homage in some sort by his wife here. And you can tell already by hieroglyphs that this is a, lower class or lower socioeconomic station that dedicated this object. And then here you see the two sons of the deceased husband here. So again, this stele like this give you a sense of the family structure of Egypt, and some of the names of the family members as well. And then in the New Kingdom, as I said, Thebes becomes a major source of activity. So it becomes a major place of religious power, but it also becomes a major burial site for both members of the royal family with the valleys of the kings and queens, but also private non-royal burials in the Theban necropolis, seen here via Google Earth as well. So this is a stele that probably came from Thebes. So it is the stele of Renif Senib. So you see him here. These are two of his relatives. You see again that offering formula, and within this chunk here is the name of Renif Senib's mother. So Renif Senib is the one that commissioned this stele and paid for it. So that's why his mom's name is here. So his relatives are giving him offerings to sustain his spirit. And again, this was originally located probably somewhere in Thebes, and probably in that Theban necropolis. So this is just, again, a close-up of these first two registers here. So an offering that the king gives to Osiris, Lord of Busaris, that he may give an invocation of bread and beer, flesh and fowl, and every good and pure thing on which a god lives for the spirit of Renif Senib. So basically, Renif Senib wants to make sure that in his next life he has bread and beer, flesh and fowl, and then just in case this list isn't enough, every good and pure thing. This is just another Google Earth image of Hierakonpolis, which is another place within one of the more cultivated regions of Egypt that we found archaeological remains as well. And then, as I said, we get to the New Kingdom. So that's around 500 years, because it's the 18th through the 20th dynasties. And this is where most of the famous rulers that people know about come from for ancient Egypt. And it's also where we see funerary culture items that really reach the most social classes. So these are just some subdivisions of the New Kingdom. So we have the Amarna period, which is the time of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. And Akhenaten is the one that tried to just do worship of the Aten for the main state god. And how far he went in the direction of monotheism is something that's still being debated. And then at some point, Akhenaten dies, and Tutankhamun comes to the throne, and he restores the traditional worship of the different deities, particularly the god Moon. And then soon after that, Ramses II comes to the throne during the 19th dynasty. And after Ramses, there's 9 or 10, maybe even a few more than that, rulers that all take the name of Ramses. And so that starts the Ramesside period, because it's this more than 100-year period when all the rulers at least have that Ramses name as one of their throne names. So this is from the New Kingdom. So this is another one of those family stele. And this is an ancient Egyptian priest, Neb-Naqatu, and his family members. So you see him here, and then him here. So this is him in the, at least here, and I think here as well, where you see him in repeated scenes, but it's the same person. And then this is his wife. And then these are some of his family members that are giving him offerings in the next world here. Then this is again from Google Earth, and it's showing you one of the most important sites from Akhenaten's reign, Tel El Marna, and then Marna overall. So when Akhenaten tried to switch the sort of state focus and worship to the god Aten, he tried to do that in Thebes first, but he found that the power of the priest of Amun was pretty entrenched, and so he eventually went on to found a new capital in Middle Egypt that he actually named after himself, and is now known as Tel El Marna. So that's what this is. And so that is what this relief from the British Museum comes from, as we think it comes from that Tel El Marna site. These are a few other stele from the British Museum that I think come from the Ramesside period. So this appears to be a stele of 2 women that are being giving offerings by this young gentleman here. And this is a piece that doesn't have a lot of provenance information about it, because it was acquired sort of early on in the British Museum's history in the early 19th century, when scientific standards and standards of excavation were really not that high. So it really limits the amount of information that we can get from this object, and really turns it more into an object of art history, because a lot of the provenance and context information for this object has really been lost, and we can't get it back. So this is another stele that has similar circumstances. So we have a mother and then her daughter here. And then similar circumstances again. And this is a woman and I think her sister here. But if you look here, the hieroglyphs are not that fancy. So particularly with these last two, you really see funerary objects and material culture trickling ever further down into different ranks of society. This is a pair, or really a family statue. So this is an example of a piece that probably stood originally in this couple's funerary chapel. So probably would have been seen by the living and by their kin as they came to bring or leave offerings. So you have the husband and wife here. So Ichu and Hanu Wetweret, and then their son here. So again, you have their names and then their titles. This is a stele from the Penn Museum, where you see the dead that's on the mummification table, and he or she is being watched over by two goddesses, Isis and Nephthys, and they're on either side. This is a stele from what the Egyptians called Nubia, which is broadly speaking modern day Sudan. During the New Kingdom, the Egyptians fully colonized Nubia. So there's a viceroy of Nubia that was an Egyptian official that was sent down there. They had forts. They really went all in. And so from that, you get a lot of examples of Egyptian material culture in Nubia, including a stele. So this is a stele of the Lady Tene Jetmet. So you have her here, and she is being given offerings here. It's not clear to me whether this is an unfinished stele or whether this was once finished and just the hieroglyphs and it's been worn down to kind of this much. Also from the New Kingdom, and particularly in the third intermediate period, you have women that have their own books of the dead. So for a lot of the early New Kingdom in particular, a lot of the books of the dead that we have were made for the husband, and the wife was included as part of the husband's book of the dead. And then towards the end of the New Kingdom, the percentage of books of the dead that were commissioned by women or made just for them start to go up, and then you get a pretty large jump in that for the third intermediate period and after. So this is an example of a book of the dead that was made for just a woman, so it was owned just by her, and her name was Tayu Henetmut. So there she is, and she's before the god Osiris there. This is Semina, which was in what the Egyptians called Nubia, and there were forts in Semina that the Egyptians built and stationed soldiers in. So we get some examples of material culture there as well. This is a Google Earth map of that Fayum region, and some of the modern day cultivation and city and modern Egypt that is in that region as well. And then, as I said, Thebes during the New Kingdom saw, major renovation and a lot more activity. So you have royal burial grounds, so the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. You also have mortuary temples by different New Kingdom pharaohs. So you have the Ramesseum, you have Meta Habu, and then in basically right along that Nile River, you have temples as well. So Luxor and Karnak, and Luxor is here, Karnak is here, to particularly to the god of moon, and then there were other deities that were honored there as well. So this is just gonna quick go back. This is a Google Earth view of modern day Thebes. So or of modern day Luxor, because that is what that area is now called. But during the Pharaonic period, it was Thebes. So this is the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Kings, and the Valley of the Queens is close by. And then you have the actual burial ground in Thebes. So this is the sort of desert part. And then you have Luxor Temple here. And then you have the actual Nile River and the cultivation that flows. So this is a stele that was probably found in Thebes. And I think it's a funerary stele, so it's probably originally in a tomb chapel or in one of the Theban burial grounds. So it is a stele or the stele of Amen Hemet and Hemit. So I think one of these husband and wife pairs. So you have the husband and then you have the wife there. So this top part here has that offering formula that we've seen before. So a gift or offering, the king gives consisting of 1,000 of bread, beer, oxen, fowl, alabaster, linen, provisions, and then just in case they missed something, and every good and pure thing upon which a god lives. So they really want to, even in their sort of next stage of life, they really want to still have all of the good stuff. And so this is here a close-up of a verse to Osiris as well, and it's this close-up here. So the one revered before Osiris, Lord of Busaris, great God, Lord of Abydos. So in the stele, this was basically the stock formula here, so to speak. And then this is, in this register, this is where it personalized it. So this is where you find the names and the titles of the people who actually commissioned these pieces. And so in some senses, until you filled this part out, this object wasn't yet activated. It wasn't yet really alive fully or ready to be used. And so then this close up here is this here. So again, the husband and wife or the couple is Amen, Hamat, and Hemit. So this chunk here is talking about the husband. So it's talking about Amenemhat. So him. So Amenemhat. Invocation offerings for the Ka, or one of the parts of the soul, of the God's father. So that's his title. So he's a priest, and then it gives his name again. And then born of Ip. So this is the born of Ip part. So born of Ip. And so this is telling you Amenemhat's mother's name. So what I talked about before is that a lot of these male owners or male commissioners of the stele give their mother's names as well. And then it goes to his wife. So in the overall stele here, so this up top part here, his wife, whom he loves, him, it, and then it gives her mother's name, born of it, ooh. This is another husband and wife pair statues that was originally found in Thebes, or a pair statue. This is Astrakhan, which Astrakhan are pieces of pottery or sometimes flakes of limestone that we see in Egyptian sites, particularly Deir al-Medina, and they can be practice sketches. They can be letters, but they're basically the Egyptians' versions of scrap paper. And so a lot of these ostraca allow us to see the sort of more informal glimpses of Egyptians' lives, and these sort of drafts of scenes before they ended up, perfectly on a lot of these tomb chambers. So this scene shows two women that are doing some sort of praise or adoration, either to maybe a family member or to a deity as well. So the original context, and why this particular sketch was made, we'll probably never fully know, but it does again give us just that little bit of kind of an informal glimpse. These are scarabs that we also see throughout different terms of Egyptian history, and all of these scarabs have the title mistress of the house. So that is what this chunk here is. So that is that NBT, which is mistress or lady, and then we have that PR, and that's the house part. So mistress of the house title. And some of these, I think, have other sort of random hieroglyphs, and then there may be some female names on these parts here. But like here, this is the mistress of the house part title. That's the mistress of the house part title here. Mistress of the house part title here. And then mistress of the house part title here. And that mistress of the house title, which refers to the sort of domestic role of Egyptian women, is something that we see repeated throughout Egyptian material culture in terms of objects. This is, I think, the last object that I'm going to do. So this object is also originally from Thebes, or at least that's its likely provenance. And this is, I think, from the third intermediate period or very late New Kingdom, but it shows a woman, and it gives her name, Isit Warit, and she is adoring the god Ra or Atarki here. So this is an example where, particularly in the Ramesside period, you get a lot of examples of private religious devotion and private religious practice that's not, just from the royal family or families. And a lot of that comes in the form of these stelae like this to different deities. So I'm going to stop this for right now, and I hope to post more videos soon. But I hope that everyone liked the objects that I've uncovered so far and learned some cool stuff. And again, if you want to contribute to me doing this full time and really being able to bring even more videos like this to you and to the rest of the public, please please contribute to my GoFundMe. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and hopefully I will see everyone soon.